motion. She had asked. All right. Good morning. I see you, Cindy. You just joined. Good morning. We're gonna go ahead and get started. But first, I have a few announcements for you. We have some upcoming CE classes. So if you're like me and you accidentally wait until like May, June to get your CE, we still have some CE opportunities coming up. The first one will be on May 6th in Garner, 121 Commerce Parkway. The second one will be on May 23rd. Oh, we have two in Fayetteville, two in Garner. So the second one in Garner will be on May 23rd. That's a Gen Up class, and that will also be in our Garner office. Then we have two coming up in Fayetteville on the 29th. We have elective course that will be right here at 124 Gillespie Street. And then June 9th, we will have our Gen Up option. So, like I said, if you tend to wait till the last minute to get your CE done, like me, I'm guilty. Here are 4 options to get it done before our deadline. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. We have Hannah, who is the branch manager for CMG Home Loans. So if you want to come up. Yes. Good. Okay. Hey, thanks for having me. I just want to come by and tell you guys a few things that I have. Actually, let me grab my flyer. Sorry. I'll leave. Okay, so the first program I want to talk about that we have is, it's called Home Funded. And what that does is it allows home buyers to crowdsource their down payment and closing costs. So it could be, instead of getting graduation gifts, give them money and put it in a home funded account through CMG. And it's really cool because anybody can add to that account, and you do not have to source down payment funds or anything like a gift. You have to source those funds. So you don't have to source these funds. And the other thing about and then the other good thing about this is a parent can start this, like when a child is born, a parent can actually start this for them and keep adding money. It's $100 a year or whatever, and you can have a huge down payment by the time they're older. Wedding gifts, you can have young couples that are getting married or whoever can have this as their wedding registry instead of Pottery Barn, or in also the Pottery Barn. You can also shop on some different online stores, like Target or Costco or Sam's or whatever, and a portion of that goes towards this if they shop through your website. Okay. So that's real, and it's a pretty big portion. CMG matches it up to $2,000 as well. So that's also included, which is kind of nice, and this is just a good way to help people get started on their down payment and closing costs. Sorry, tongue twisted there for a second. So this is the one thing that is phenomenal. And if anybody wants more information about this, just let us know and I can send that out to everybody. All right, so the next thing is called our list and block. And what this does is it allows you to maintain the value of the home. Instead of lowering the price, the seller pays for buy downs, rate buy downs. So let's say they sell the house, the house is listed at $500,000. Instead of lowering it to $490,000, let's do $10,000 towards rate reduction. And this opens up a whole new pool of buyers that couldn't qualify for the $500,000 house, but they can't now with a lower rate. So we have some now that, and these are marketed through social media. We boost them. I had 30,000 views on my last one that I did. So like we post the rate, you can click on the site and it shows you the current rate for the day, but it'll say rates as low as X amount. And most of them, if not all of them, are in the 5s. So depending on how much the seller wants to do, it could be anywhere from 1% to 6%. And we also do 1% in addition to that. So we added an additional 1%. So we have what's called lock now or lock later. The lock later option is $49 to lock in the rate now, and that's paid by the seller or the agent or myself. And then there's also a lock now that's $999, and that's paid by any of us as well. And these are all refundable at close, so there'll be a seller credit at close. And also, the seller can also get up to $5,000 towards closing costs from CMG if they use us for their next purchase of their next home. Yeah, so it's a benefit for the buyer and the seller, and then the seller and the buyer. So it's a benefit for everybody. And so if it's a $500,000 house, they get $5,000 in lender credit towards their house. So that's what's something that's really good. We advertise it. We have sign writers that we mail to the house or to the agent's office. And then we promote it all over social media. It's everywhere. It's blasted. And we do that all for free for the agent and seller. And then the next thing, it's called the all-in-one, and this is a first position lien HELOC. So think of it as a credit card. So it's interest-only payments, and those payments come out of your HELOC account. So they come out of your account. So this one's kind of harder to explain without kind of seeing that we have a simulator that shows you how that exactly works. But, you know, most people have, or a lot of people have HELOCs on their home, and they know you make the payments on those HELOCs from the HELOC itself. So there's no actual payment that you have to make a payment for. That's kind of the same with this. So we have a sweep account that you set up. North Point Bank is who typically services these loans for us. So you set up a deposit account. Let's say you deposit $10,000 into that account or whatever. That full $10,000 is swept over at midnight into your HELOC, and it pays your principal balance. So if it's a $500,000 purchase price or loan amount, your loan amount then goes to $490,000 automatically. You're paying straight towards principal forward. You're only paying interest then on $490,000. You're not paying interest on the $500,000. So does that kind of make sense? Yeah. And then you pay the interest on that. It comes out of your HELOC, and then you put another $10,000 in the next month. And the goal is to pay your house off in 8 to 12 years versus 30 years. This is good for self-employed people. This is good for anyone that gets large bonuses throughout the year. It's just, financial advisors love this product because it allows their customers to pay their house off exponentially early. So I have one guy that had a $700,000 house. He paid his off in a year and a half because of this, with the large deposits. So that's a huge benefit for a certain clientele. It's not for everybody. They have to be willing to put that money into the account. And it also doesn't change your spending at all. It doesn't change your spending. You'll have a debit card, a checkbook, everything, and you can pay all your bills out of that account. You can pay your taxes. You can buy a car. You can, whatever you need to do, you can do that out of this account. So you don't have to change any spending habits. It's just everything that gets deposited is paid towards your principal.
Okay.
We also have all the normal products, you know, conventional FHA, USDA, VA, all of that. We did just update our government pricing. So our government pricing is a little better than it was last week with our loan level pricing adjustments. So that's huge, especially being here in Fayetteville. I know with all the VA loans, I'm sure that is done in Fayetteville. I'm happy to work with a lot of VA buyers to see how we can help with their process as well. Not just with rate, but whatever else we can do. I've got one right now that's going great. It's a guy moving here from New York, first time home buyer, and it's such an easy process. The longest the longest anything takes is the appraisal. So that's what takes the longest. But we have DSCR loans, which are, you know, investor loans. We have all of that as well. Anything that you guys want to know if we have, or if you have questions on it, just shoot me an email. LaShonda's got my email, so anything that you guys need, just don't hesitate to reach out. And then I will be in Garner in a few weeks too.
We appreciate you, for sure. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. I'll leave these here for you guys too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, John, you're probably gonna wanna like just rip them out every few minutes so that the screen doesn't go blank. All right.
All right, so today's class is from John Stroud. He's going to talk to us about why getting home inspections, even for new construction homes, is so vital. So we have the class 10 most common issues found in a new home inspection. Yeah. Anyway.
Okay, we're good.
Okay.
Is there YouTube PowerPoint? It's getting downloaded.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go back to the email, just download the actual.
Okay.
So this is- So everybody knows. So everybody knows.
Yeah, there's a.
Hey, that-
Is that better?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
So let's go ahead. Okay. So good morning, everyone. My name is John Stroud. I own True North Inspection Services. I've been doing inspections for 12 years now, and about 4,000 inspections. So I've seen a couple things. A lot of new construction, a lot of new construction issues. So that's kind of what we're talking about today. So kind of so what part is it? We good? All right. So I'm part of all the associations and all that fun stuff, all the way from Wake County, Johnson County, all the way down to the Cape Fear Association. So I can schedule my own access route. All that. Just a quick plug for that, and I do all the services, so septic tanks and new construction and all that fun stuff. So today we're going to be talking about what I find personally in new construction that seems to be more common than it really should be. So jumping right in, can I stand on this side?
Yeah, yeah, you can still see.
Okay. Hopefully you can still hear me.
Mhm.
I'm gonna stand kind of like this, so I can kind of talk to the camera at the same
Okay.
time.
Just talk to the camera, it's
Okay.
we're all watching here regardless.
Okay. So drainage issues. So for example, it's hard to really see this picture here, but this was a new construction house that I did recently, probably in the last couple of months, where this house is at the bottom of the cul-de-sac, and so all the drainage is already running down towards this house. You can kind of see in the picture in this corner here, that's where there's an actual swamp. So all the drainage is collecting there. They have this retaining wall kind of holding up that area. Also, what you can't really see very well is there's a sprinkler system, sprinkler heads, probably about 3 or 4 just on this portion right here, and a couple of others on the front of the house. So all that moisture is concentrated towards this house and towards this retaining wall, and then into the swamp area. So the rule of thumb is 6 inches of slope for every 10 feet of run away from the house. So you want to make sure that the new house has that properly, that that swale properly pitched away. So technically, this is about 10 feet, so they're technically right, and they have this retaining wall. However, I would probably have said to remove the sprinkler system because of all that extra moisture and extra water in this specific area. And I told that client there when I was there during the inspection, I was like, hey, there is a lot of water going towards your house in this area. Make sure this swale is providing the intended pitch away from the house, even after the first year. You know, you do your 1-year warranty, kind of walk through, kind of see where what has settled and what is showing at this point. So at that point, you want to see if it has settled too much, which is possible, and starting to erode towards the house. You obviously don't want it going towards the house. Luckily, again, this was on a slab, so the concerns about like mold and fungal growth in a crawl space don't apply. However, you still have concerns with erosion and all that fun stuff going towards a slab foundation and causing those cracks that you can't see per se, and any other concerns that might cause the house to settle outside of typical land settling concerns. I would advise to always put gutter systems in for a new construction. Anything to divert that water shed away from the house and pitching away. A lot of the time, so it's like every 2 minutes.
Yeah.
We'll learn. We'll learn together. You and I on the camera.
I love technology.
Yeah, technology is awesome. I forgot what I was saying. So sloping, settling concerns, gutter systems.
Yeah.
So we always recommend 5 to 6 feet of pitching away from the house as far as the extensions, gutter extensions. People don't like to do that because it doesn't look pretty. So the other option is maybe doing an underground system to cause that downspout to pitch away from the house. Anything to help that, prevent that erosion from that foundation. Another example is the house that I did maybe a month ago, where the builders wanted to conserve their time and money, and the rainwater was coming kind of off of a dormer on the front of the house. The garage was in the front. There's a dormer right up top here. All the water kind of valleyed into the dormer area and then right over the garage. And the major concern with that was, luckily it was raining that day, so we kind of got to watch it in action. The water was actually draining directly onto one of the lights. It had one of those kind of farm style lights where it has like a hood and everything. And the water was just pouring directly onto this light. So I called that out for the inspection. I was like, hey, this could be a concern with the electrical, obviously water going into the wall above the garage, all that stuff. And by the time I went back to pick up the radon, they put a gutter system in. I was like, well, there you go. So we all learned that day.
I find it so weird that there are still a good number of new construction builders that don't just automatically put gutters on the home.
Yeah, there's a lot of things with new construction that I know they're trying to like conserve money and save stuff. For example, like screens are just like, nah, we're not doing screens.
Yeah.
Gutters, we're like, we'll only do gutters if you've asked for it, type of thing. And then other specific interior upgrades, like the thickness of the paints sometimes, and they only do one layer in the garage, or for example, or sometimes they would just bypass the fact that there's several cracks in the garage floor, so they're not going to like coat it or anything like that. That's like a next level upgrade, but still, you have cracks in the foundation floor. We'll get to that too. You have cracks in the concrete and everything. You want to seal it at least.
Right.
So, all that stuff. Gutters, grading. Talk about that. 6 inches. Okay. So next, moving on to electrical issues. Besides, so I want to caveat with houses were built by humans. Humans make mistakes. Sometimes those humans are the assistants. And the assistants to the electrical are the guys that reverse the wiring for a lot of stuff. And we find too many outlets with reverse ground polarity or reverse hot polarity, for example. And just kind of like common sense stuff, like you think they wire it correctly, they're like, okay, it's good, but they don't test it after the fact, like we test it. Very simple thing that we do for all inspection. I've done, at this point in my career, millions of outlets. Like my outlet tester has some miles on it. So it baffles me that an electrician doesn't like check his own work. Basically, short answer is check your own work. And yeah, reverse polarity, improper GFCIs, i.e. there isn't any, or they don't test the GFCI after they install it, so they don't know if it actually does trip like it's supposed to. And GFCIs are required in specific rooms, garages, exteriors, bathrooms, kitchens, and now laundry rooms are required too. Other things are simple things. Again, checking behind your work is they install a junction box in the garage, in a crawl space or attic, but they forget to put a cover on it. So it's basically the wire connection is still open technically. So if something gets crawls in there or something, and you're wondering why your breaker keeps tripping, it's because that squirrel is chewing on your wires, and it's an open junction box causing that to trip and break. So that's a worst case scenario. Short answer is it's a safety concern. You always want to put a cover on those junction boxes, regardless of if it's an attic, crawl space, or open area inside of a wall or garage or something. So make sure you tell Uncle Buck to finish the job and put that cover on top.
Uncle Buck.
Trying to make sure you guys are paying attention. Junction boxes properly installed. So next thing is another common thing that we see that shouldn't be so common are leaking roofs from new construction. And it's not necessarily that the roof is leaking, but that it could leak. So what we find are like, for example, when the builder tries to, or the roofer, for example, puts their ladder on top of the lower shingle roof, the lower shed style roof to get up to the upper roof, the lower shed style roof already has the shingles installed. So those ladders are gouging into the shingles, causing those weak points. And therefore, that's an area where it can collect and cause that moisture to go into the roof. So we want to make sure that we get that stuff taken care of. Very common issue. I find it on probably 75% of new construction that has that style roof. I'll find some type of gouging in the shingles right there, right above typically the main entryway. Or if it has a sunroom, sun porch on the backside that has a roof on it, you'll see ladder gouge marks in there. So other typical things, nail pops. Everybody knows about nail pops. It's a very common thing. However, it's super easy to fix and to recognize. The point for us as inspectors are those, is it an actual nail pop or is it just kind of like a bone shingle or something like that? It's really hard to tell unless you're like right on top of it, which I know a lot of people are like, does he go on the roof? Sometimes. If it's safe for me to climb on the roof, I'll climb on the roof. But if it's like a 3-story roof, there's probably no way for me to actually get up there. Yes, drones are possible, but I have really expensive binoculars personally that I use for most of my stuff. I'm gonna have to talk a little louder because the HVAC system just kicked on. So nail pops, we were talking about that. Lifted shingles, gouge shingles, traffic are similar concept as those ladder systems. With the ladders gouge in those, it could also be somebody's boot gouging in the shingles and causing those granules just to fall off. That basically, it doesn't cause a leak per se, but it could cause that shingle to reduce the typical life expectancy of that shingle itself. So should it be replaced? Yes, if you're buying a brand new $1 million house, for example, why not have those couple of areas where they gouge their heel into the shingles? So we'll always recognize that. Some other common issues are what we like to affectionately call shiners, which is a shiny nail, basically. If you can see a shiny nail from the ground, that means it wasn't installed properly, because you shouldn't be able to see any nails from the ground. Oh, crap, I lost the thing again.
have to rip the nose.
Oh, I see.
I got
Okay. I think we're good.
Yeah.
So now that we have this back up, you can kind of see in the picture here, this is signs of traffic. This is where they walked up. You can see some gouging shingles there, and it's common issues. That's right where the flashing meets the house itself, so that's where they stepped up. There's a couple areas where it's kind of cracked and damaged there too. I think there's a cracked one right on this corner here too. So traffic, we want to make sure that the builder is responsible for their own traffic, basically. Unsealed nails and flashings. I find this, if we find missing sealed nails for flashing in new construction, it means we just forgot. But these also can be those weak points. If the nail for the flashing starts to pop up, that's where it causes a weak point and can allow that moisture to go into the nail path, which is going into the decking itself and could cause that leak. So when we find that in new construction, it's because they forgot. And we find it in older houses, it's because it's probably deteriorated and fallen off. So very, pretty common things that we find on both sides there. Moisture kick-out. So kick-out flashing is a 45-degree angle metal piece that kicks out the moisture that runs along the side of the roof here into a gutter system. So those are required now. I think they were starting to be required. I want to say 2021. Feel free to quote me in the comments. Something like that. But I think kick-out flashing into the gutter system. So the concern with that is if the kick-out flashing isn't there, that water is just gonna drain along the side of the house and then all the way down the side of the house. And people wonder why the side of their house is becoming decayed and deteriorated prematurely. It's because they don't have any kick-out flashing or they don't have a gutter system at all. I did a house maybe actually it was Monday. It didn't have any kick-out flashing, and the chimney chase, very common issue. The chimney chase is a boxed chimney chase where it's sided, not a masonry, not brick or anything. So there was no kick-out flashing, and you can see where the trim underneath that area. So here's the chimney chase. Here's the connection that goes to it. No kick-out flashing on the sides, and it was basically just pouring water into the bottom chase point itself and causing the whole siding to be decayed and everything. And it was a flipped house, so they just painted over it. So
I love a good flip house, so it's just lipstick on a pig sometimes.
yeah, exactly. We can do a whole class.
Oh, I bet.
Flip houses are fun to find. With the shingles, we talked about that, moisture penetration. Hey, I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna ninja this down before the end of the class. Okay, so kick-out flashing, we talked about that. So next, defective heating and gas systems. If your inspector does not test for gas leaks, call somebody else. Because in my experience, I find 1 in 8, 1 in 9 houses have a gas leak, regardless of that new construction or old houses. Yep. So
I guess, I mean, when someone's calling a home inspector for inspection on new construction, is that something that you typically ask, like, does it have gas? Is that something, because I know one of the things we always get, inevitably, the inspector gets there and they call us and they're like, the pilot light's not lit and we can't turn that on, or the gas hasn't been turned on yet, especially with it being new construction. So can you talk us through a little bit, like, is that something you ask us, or we need to make sure we make you aware of to know that there's gas there? Because I don't think all inspectors do check for gas, correct?
yeah, they don't. No. Some of them actually charge more for it too, which I don't understand. You're already there. You're right there.
Right.
It takes 2 seconds. You're already looking at the connections and everything. Why not? But
And what was that stat you gave? You said so many out of so many homes?
Yeah, 1 in 8, 1 in 9 houses, in my experience, have a gas leak. Yeah.
And is that only natural gas, or is that propane too?
Both.
Really?
More common than natural gas. I think probably because I do natural gas more often,
That's, okay.
but yes, both. And that could be anywhere between like at your water heater, at your gas furnace. A lot of the times it's at your gas meter itself or any of the connections. That's what we'll check for, is all all of those accessible connections. Check your gas leaks.
And you check the HVAC, I really have it off, so I don't know why it's turning on. Or I have an inspection to find out when we get done.
Another thing for gas leaks are it is required since I want to say 2018, again, feel free to fact check it, that a CO detector is required for all houses. All houses that have gas systems. And that includes houses with garages attached to the house. If it doesn't have gas in the entire house, but it has a garage attached to the house, there can still be leaks from your car that can leak into that house. So it does have to have a CO detector.
Now, about the radon detectors.
What about it?
Someone had mentioned that it's good to have those and to like put them lower in the home, like.
Yeah, so the radon is a whole nother class too. But radon detector, it would be a good idea, especially houses that have basements more commonly. Slab houses can have it. I did a house in Hope Mills that it's like about 4.0. So there is radon here. People don't think there is. So I had a couple houses in this downtown area, apartment complex that did spike above. It was like 6 point something. So that was here in this general area. More commonly, it depends on the soil too. Depends on the basement, depends on the soil, depends on where you are. There is radon in Fayetteville. There's definitely radon in the Wake Forest, Raleigh area, definitely from that area. Not so much at the beach. That's funny. I did a one in Hope Mills, came back as spiked above 5, and I did one at the beach that was like 0.1.
So, in my experience, and you tell me if you have another resource, I just know of a local radon remediation company that they started mapping like where they go to remediate. So, you know, there's pockets. Is there another resource that you know of that we should be aware? Because I think as agents, we so often go, oh, we don't really see radon here. And so we don't encourage our buyers, but said, there are pockets of it that we need to be aware of. Is there another resource that you know of? Or?
There's the national radon, EPA.gov online website. We'll show you all the different zones. And it'll show you different higher areas. Like I was saying, the triangle has higher areas. But I don't know if it says, I think it just says Fayetteville area is just lower chances, and beaches have different soil, obviously, so it's not as common on the beach. But still recommend having it tested because you never know. But like I said, the house I did at Hope Mills, she was kind of going back and forth on it. She's like, should I get it done? Should I not? And I was like, well, if you have this type of foundation, this type of soil, if it comes back positive, then you have room to negotiate. But if it comes back negative, then you know, then it's great. But it's spiked over 5, so now she knows. Improper ventilation. There's a whole concern about the proper ventilation of how a water heater ventilation is installed, how a gas furnace is required to be installed. So if those aren't installed properly, for example, the gas water heater has that hood all the way down against the top of the tank. That's incorrect, because that's not going to allow the ambient air to be sucked in and push the air up through and allow that burn for your actual chamber to continue. So it could blow the light out, and also it could come through the outside during a windy day and also blow the light out, blow your pilot light out. So whole lot of different stuff. And if you're worried about gas leaks in your house or your new house, just ask us. Say, or ask your inspector, hey, does your company check for gas leaks? Because I know a better one that does. That's the guy. This is a fun thing. Feel free to chime in online what you think this is, and I'll give you the answers in about a minute. So since we have a couple people in class, what do you think it is? These are both new construction houses.
That looks like.
This one,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
I need it closer.
this is the agent's house.
They added something on top of the siding, it looks like.
On this one,
Uh-huh. Are they the same picture or different? Two different.
different things, two different things.
Looks like they forgot to frame around a window and they just decided to frame through a window.
Yes. I would say that's more this one here.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about this one here first, and then we'll get to this one. So this is a window, right?
Uh-huh.
But this is vinyl siding, this J channel, and there's flashing here underneath it, like we were talking about earlier. So if the water comes down here, where is it gonna go?
Wow.
Yeah. They cut into the flashing, they cut into this J
So
channel.
it kind of disrupts the flow,
Definitely.
right? Wow.
And this is like a sunroom, everything, so what do you think's gonna happen?
It's gonna accumulate.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's just gonna like pour into that ceiling
Wow.
right there. So again, new construction. Got a lot. What's the saying? Measure once, cut twice.
Yeah.
That's what they did there.
Somebody's getting fired, that's what he said.
And I've been thinking about this one ever since I started this class. When I first started this class is like, how did they miss the calculation of this? Because you have to know that they opted in for this before you even started building, or theoretically. And then how did you not realize that there's more than a quarter of an inch gap that is needed for the flashing and for the shingles themselves? You gotta have at least that spacing for those areas. So they had to cut the corner of the window also, the trim of the window, to get this to fit right.
So I think one of the biggest questions we get, and this is no shade towards any crew, but I think a lot of our clients go, well, how did it pass building inspection?
Yeah, that's a good question, but I think sometimes they're so backed up and so busy that they just kind of look at like, what is the basic minimum requirement of this section? When they do their code inspections, they're only going in there to check that one thing. Like, they're going in there to check out, okay, the electrical, the wiring is right. Who cares if there's a gap in the wall frame at that point? They're not really paying attention to that. They're inspecting this thing. So they're just inspecting a couple things at a time, checking off their one sheet checklist. They might not even pay attention to this, or they might not even have looked out the window. For example, that's how you can see my picture is me looking out the window. So maybe they just didn't do that. Like I said, they're so backed up. They're going from house to house to house to house. So they don't have time to be like, okay, well, this small thing really should fix, or whatever the case may be, whether it's a small thing or big thing should be fixed. That's why you want somebody that's completely unbiased. I have no financial gain whether this house sells or not. I'm just looking at like the safety, functionality, and benefits to clients. So moving on to this one. So these are stairs. So, and then you can kind of see the foundation here. And behind this, I had some people think that it was like maybe a dryer vent. It's like, that's a good idea. That's a good guess, I should say. But it's actually, drum roll, it's an outlet.
I was just thinking, okay, now I'm seeing that it was covering something in front of something. And so was it was new construction or was it
Yeah.
addition?
No, brand new. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I was gonna know where my outlet was. I mean,
Right. Right. And you have to think about it. You're like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? What came
Right.
first? The stairs or the electrician? Most likely the electrician. And then they put the porch stairs on it. So there's obviously a couple problems with this. First is you can't use the outlet at all. There's obviously no way. Second is all exterior outlets are supposed to be weather protected. Is this weather protected?
Yeah.
So, what do you do now? So the right thing to do would really be, take this out, lock it off, and move it, 6 inches?
Right.
And then you can actually use it, or maybe 6 inches this way, so you can use it on the stairs. If you want to use things. Or maybe in front, but either way.
And all of these pictures are from your personal.
Yes.
Wow.
These are all my actual inspections. So moving into structural damage, like we were saying before, how does it get fixed? How does it even get overlooked? Maybe they're just going too fast or something, because these are real issues. For example, the one in the middle is fungal growth. We don't like to call it actual mold until we actually test it to see what kind of mold it is. Is it dangerous? All that stuff. That's a separate test. Clearly see that the crawl space was probably, well, I know it was wide open at the time. There wasn't any insulation. There was no vapor barrier for obviously an extended amount of time, enough to start to grow mold in the crawl space before they even closed on the house. So it could also have been the subfloor of the OSB was left outside for too long, and then they just installed it without thinking about it. You know, it could be a number of those factors. I'm betting on the fact that it was wide open, wet area, wet crawl space, and they just didn't seal it. And it still wasn't sealed from my inspection. Like there still wasn't any vapor barrier when I. Other things, a lot of the times, commonly we find broken trusses. It's like our golden ticket as a home inspector. When we find a broken truss, it's like, yes, we feel validated. We found something that's significant. Like a broken truss affects the roof load. So the roof moves during the wind or weather, it could cause more damage, especially if it's already starting to crack like this one. This one's kind of hard to see, probably hard to see in the Zoom too, but it's already started to crack right here. I found some more obvious ones where the truss has like a web design or an W or an M design a lot of times, and sometimes there's pieces that are completely missing or snapped in half. So at that point, I'm like, you had to have known, in my opinion, you had to have known when you dragged it off the truck or off the ground and had the crane kind of bring it up there, that it was probably already broken, right? So why not fix it when it's in an easier area as opposed to when it's up there? Either way, it wasn't fixed on both sides. It wasn't fixed before, it wasn't fixed after. It wasn't even thought about because I show up and it's still broken. So completely not even thinking about it. Moving on to this one, this overlook design. These are called eye joists. Eye joists are the subfloor framing. Basic dimensional lumber joist. So basic dimensional lumber joists are the ones that are just sawed and cut normally. These have a wet area in the middle, and then it has a top flange and a bottom flange. And you cut any of the top flange or the bottom flange, it affects the actual load and structure of the actual system. So this is a gas line here. So two things: get a gas line going through the wall without any type of protection conduit or anything, but it's also cut through that eye joist, that top flange. So that's affecting the load. This is over a header area. I think this is going to the actual access point, the actual door to the crawl space. So this is going to become a weak point, and you probably start to feel it a little spongy at first until the floor starts to eventually crack. So again, a lot of new construction stuff. So yeah. Here's the thing that you'll see probably, hopefully, on all inspection reports, like if it is cracked, if a truss is cracked, or even a joist like this is cracked, it has to be further evaluated by an engineer. because they're going to have to modify it in some way, shape, or form to see if, for example, cistern. You can see this one was cistered, but this one's still cracked. So pointing out my previous point where they overlook designs and stuff. This one they fixed, but why didn't they fix this one? So once they modify this, they're supposed to have a structural letter that says, yes, we modified it intentionally because of the damage. This is how it's modified, and this will suffice for X amount of years or whatever their disclaimer says. So fun stuff there. Plumbing issues. So this one is fun to me for a couple of reasons. This picture right here, it's hard to tell. Anybody know what that is?
Like coffee.
It's another guess. What is it?
It looks like coffee to me.
Coffee.
It's a little, I can't do.
So, excuse me.
You're gonna sneeze, look at the light, it'll make it go away.
Stare at it. Okay, good. That works. All right. So this is fun to me because this is a drain. It's not coffee, it's a drain. So I did a video about this and on my TikTok page. I got 2.4 million views for just this video. It was probably like 15 seconds long or something like that, but 2.4 million views because people thought it was going to be like a jump scare type thing. But in reality, it's this is a shower drain. And you couldn't tell from looking at the shower. The shower was beautiful, master bathroom. And going in, the water was on, but something told me to look in this first because I thought I saw something like blockage in the drain. I was like, okay, well, the drain's blocked, it's probably not the drain, right? So I started to get down closer to it, and you can see this is actually insulation. Why is it insulation? Because if you go in the crawl space, there's no pipe. At all. And this is supposed to be their final inspection. So that missed the code guy, that missed the builder, that missed anybody else that was in the crawl space. That missed the insulation guy that covered it in the first place. And then I show up and you can see that there's nothing even connected. So what happens if they actually moved into the property and they didn't think about it. They thought everything was perfect. They didn't get an inspection because why? Why do I need to spend the money? It's a new house, it's perfect, right? Wrong, because for obvious reasons. All that water is just going to accumulate in the crawl space for however long until they realize what's happening. And then you're going to have a bigger problem, mold, all that fun stuff. And then all your shower, whatever you drain down the shower, all your self will be in the crawl space. So yeah, don't skip the inspection. Here's another story. New construction house had a turtle in the garage. That's how I remember the story. There's a turtle chasing me in the garage while I was doing all the outlets. I thought it was kind of funny. But when I went into the inside, it was a townhouse, and there was a leak in the ceiling. And eventually, I found out that the builder told me that the drywall guy put a nail through one of the water lines in the ceiling above the kitchen. So all of that just kind of went out all over their brand new island, granite countertops, all that fancy stuff. It's nice. So nail penetrations through pipes that they don't even think about. An idea that I added here to consider would be thermal imaging, which is something that we can scan the house with to be able to see if there's any potential leaks or electrical issues or missing insulation in new construction or any house really. So if I did the thermal imaging, the leak in this case in my story was pretty obvious. But if it wasn't so obvious, we could use the thermal imaging and moisture meters to be able to see if there was something starting to show and starting to follow its way down the walls before it started to become an actual problem. Kind of catch it before it becomes a real problem. Loose exterior fixtures. There was a hose bib. There was one new construction where they turned the water on, but there wasn't a hose bib. It was just a pipe. And they're like, we have to turn the water on for the inspector. but they didn't put the hose bib on.
Wow.
So it was just like a new water feature out the side of their house. I was like, thanks for turning the water on. I'll do all my stuff so you can turn the water off. But it was just spraying out the whole time. I was like, okay, sure. You sure you don't want to just like clamp one on real quick or put a cap on it or something? Nope, just spray it out. All right. Sounds good to me. Also, if it does another new construction house, they didn't even screw it into the wall yet, so you could literally kind of like pull it out. So that causes that strain on those connections. If somebody's trying to hook up a hose bib, trying to water the yard, pulling it along, you could pull it and cause that strain to pop those connections, and then more leaks in the crawl space. There's kind of a trend here with water issues. But we have water seepage through the doors. It's hard to see this picture, but on the bottom of this, maybe you can scroll down a little bit, where they didn't put any flashing around it. This was obviously a DIY job. They didn't put any weather barrier on the house. So you see there's nothing coming in, no water, no protection there. So any outside, it might not have even been taped as flashing. It could allow that water to come in through here. And in the bottom of this, you can actually see, sorry.
You can do it on the side. You see the arrow on the side of the screen?
Yeah, so you can see the water was actually, it is coming through. There's no slope in the driveway here. This was flat. What this house specifically, they enclosed a house on stilts. So this was their kind of makeshift garage. So there's no slope at all. They added the door. There's no flashing or anything around here. Water is already coming in because there's no pitch in the driveway. There's no pitch in the floor because they literally just enclosed the area. They didn't do anything else to it. No flashing, so water's coming in. So common issues that this was DIY, but common issues are missing flashing and stuff like that. Common issues if you do pre-drywall inspections too, catch it before it becomes a problem. If they don't install the flashing, the tape flashing underneath the windows has to go up the sides about 4 to 6 inches. And if it's not, then that can be a concern too. It's supposed to have one continuous strip that goes along the entire underneath the entire windowsill and up the sides. So if that's not a continuous strip up the sides, then it could allow those weak points to deteriorate those flashing areas and cause that moisture to go inside, which obviously we don't want. So foundation cracks. There's a whole class about foundation and cracks and stuff like this too. At what point would you consider a crack acceptable?
Well, I know that I see a lot that there are like very small cracks that don't have like space in between them that are, I guess, common. But when they start having like a certain amount of space in between the cracks, that's when they are an issue.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, you're talking about open crack or closed cracks, hairline cracks versus open cracks. Some of the times those cracks are just considered that veneer coating, which is a common finishing thing that they do around here, at least. I don't know wherever you are, but probably wherever you are. They do the veneer coating, and once that dries, it could cause it to crack in between the joints, depending on what style foundation you actually have. If you have a full monolithic slab, then a crack could be more of a concern. If you see where the control joint starts to crack on the outside wall, typically they don't cut those control joints all the way out. So if you see that control joint going all the way out and causing that crack, then that's something to monitor at least. If it does start to gap, rule of thumb for us is 3/16 of an inch wide, or even if it starts to deflect, then it's a structural engineer concern. I always recommend agents bring like 2 credit cards or maybe a membership card or something. If you can fit those cards in the cracks there, then it's probably to a point where we would say as home inspectors that you should probably get a structural engineer to look at this issue. And then we'll find where the crack goes, whether it's an issue. with other floors of the house too, or if it's just a foundation thing. Sometimes we can tell if it's just that veneer coating or if it's an actual concern, and we'll write in the report as such. Talk about that already. Raised foundations, cracks in the seams of the blocks. That's kind of what I was talking about with the veneer coating. If it starts to crack in the blocks themselves, it's probably just a topical issue. That's when you have to look like in the crawl space to see if the crack goes all the way through or not. If it's in the joint or is it through the block itself, a few different factors to look for. Feel free to come with me on an inspection and I'll tell you all about it.
I would love to.
Timing, last thing. When is a good time to schedule your inspection? As an agent, when is the best time?
For new construction?
Yeah.
Definitely pre-drywall, and then once the home is complete.
Right, but at what point would you consider it complete? Versus, we're talking complete versus your timing when it's supposed to close too.
Oh, yes.
During your blue tape walkthrough.
You want to have it before so they can take a look at that report before the blue tape walkthrough.
Yep. I like to see right around your blue tape walkthrough. At least that's typically what I see is about a week out from closing, right? Is that fair to say? Yeah. So it's kind of nice to see where they have blue tape in some areas for us, so I can kind of be like, oh, that makes sense why they didn't. Okay. Majority of the blue tape is cosmetic stuff. Sometimes it's like, okay, it's an actual defect. So it's exciting for me to be like, what are the concerns of the clients? Well, they already pointed it out to me.
That's a lot of tape.
Yeah, this wasn't even the worst one I see. This is just what I found. I took a picture of.
That is horrible.
This is somebody I know pretty well. And I'm like, dude, you sure? I think he said the green was his wife and he's the blue, or vice versa, or something like that.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, really? Okay. At what point are you just like, just paint it all, do it all again? So, cosmetic concerns, we talked about that, scheduling. Yeah, so that's basically all that stuff. I just thought this was funny. Like I said, it's not the worst I've seen, but it is pretty bad. So in conclusion, it's not about it's not about what's broken. It's about what hasn't been installed properly, or whatever. Like I said at the beginning, houses were built by humans. Humans make mistakes. We're there to call out those mistakes and hold them accountable as builders, especially if they're like a big name builder. We want to make sure that they're actually taking care of their clients the way you and I all want them to, and we don't want them to have that panic attack at 3 in the morning when they have a leak coming from the ceiling over the top of the master bedroom as they're sleeping. We don't want that issue. We want to catch all those things ahead of time so they don't have those issues. If they have those issues like 20 years down the road, that's a whole separate thing. But for new construction, we want to make sure we take care of them and making sure they know everything possible about their brand new house before they even move in and sign that dotted line to make the most expensive investment that they've probably made in their life. So we say, touching on the second paragraph here, they don't have to be at the inspection, but in our experience, we always recommend them coming about an hour after the start of the inspection time to at least be able to show them in person what we're going to call out on the inspection, and have them kind of walk them through exactly where these more major concerns are. A lot of the small cosmetic stuff is cosmetic, so we're not typically worried about that. But we want them to be able to read the report, be like, oh yeah, he told me it was in the master bedroom lower left-hand corner or something like that. So, and then communication is key. So make sure that they ask all of the questions as possible and make sure they're actually understanding what they're getting themselves into. Whoops. So the last thing says, every house has problems. We just have to help them understand and whether they are willing to accept those problems as they are, or get them fixed, or whatever they want. Here's a couple tips that I wanted to leave you guys with. Looking at any houses anywhere. This is an easy website that we use. I also learned that you can use ChatGPT for it.
Yeah,
Yeah, you take a
Nicole
picture-
told us that.
take a picture of the data plate, and then it should tell you what the age and brand and all that fun stuff is. And IMAPS is a good, even an app for all your permits and septic permits. We use them for finding septic permits most of the time. So definitely recommend that too. So this is talking about social media stuff, but that's the rest of my class for actual 10 common things. Thank you for your time. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, we appreciate you. Bye, y'all.
Yeah.